relationship between teaching skills and emceeing skills? Do you think there's a direct relationship? So just have your scoring rubrics on the table as I drive you through this valley. Just do the scoring and give me the feedback. If I do it well, then I'll pursue this as a career and I'll do it as a side hustle. I'm known as the master of a side hustle. All right, we are starting. It's 50 minutes after 2, and we are starting with the afternoon session. A slight change on the program. We are supposed to have Prof. Stephanie now, but we are still busy setting up since he will be presenting online. He's ready? Good. So then that means we'll just follow the program as is. And we'll also need to fit in Miss Eunice from Kenya, who is supposed to present before lunch. I hope this time around she would be able to unmute herself and will be able to hear. Right? Let's welcome Prof. Stephanie Matelang Alais, who is going to present online lessons learned, employer engagement, lesson learned from South Africa. So Professor Stephanie is at the Center for Researching Education and Labor Center at Tvet University, South Africa. Without wasting much time, I invite Prof. Stephanie to take us through his presentation. I'll give the professor 15 minutes, and the time starts now, 52 minutes after 2. So we count 15 minutes from now. Professor, you should be done with your presentation. Thank you. Prof, you are muted. Can you please unmute yourself? It shows on the screen, we can see that your mic is still having that slash. Is that a backward or forward? Backward slash on the mic, which shows that you are still on mute. Does it mean that it's from our end? Tech team. Ms. B, try to chat to Prof, and so he can tell us whether it's not unmuting from her side or... Just chat to her to tell us what the problem is.
So colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can now hear you.
Okay. I don't know where the slides are. I sent my slides through. I don't know where they would show if I shared them. I did try and share them and it doesn't seem to want to let me. So I don't know if someone on your side wants to fly the slides.
Are you unable to share your slides?
It's not sharing, so I don't know if there's a setting on your side that is stopping me from sharing.
Tech team. Tech team, are you able
Perhaps
to?
I should...
Miss B, will you share? All right. Mrs. Kluter will share your slides.
The problem is I don't see your screen, so it's a strange setup here. But maybe I should just start, because initially the session was quite a lot longer than the 15 minutes that you want me to take now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do understand that you're running late, but I had planned a longer presentation. So I don't know if you guys can see the slides or not, but I will just summarize some of the key points that are on the slides, and then they can be shared later.
All right. That will.
Um,
Go ahead, Prof.
yeah.
Go
so
ahead.
I'm not, okay, I don't know what is on the, what is visible on your side. Anyway, as you said in the introduction, I'm from the Center for Researching Education and Labor at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. And at the Real Center, we focus very much on a whole range of different aspects of skill formation and skill formation systems. And so obviously Tvet is a key focus of ours. And I think, what you can really see when you look at Tvet systems across particularly low and middle income countries, but actually some wealthy countries as well, is that although they're seen as high priority, they remain weak, they remain underfunded, and we've seen headed many of them, and in many cases they seem to have made institutions weaker, not stronger, and in particular through the ways in which employer engagement has been attempted to be introduced into our system. So really what I wanted to reflect on and share with all of you today is some experiences in which South Africa really tried very hard to build what it thought was an employer-led system. We set up a bunch of institutions and systems that we thought would lead to employer engagement and relevant qualifications. And actually, what we achieved was extreme alienation of employers, obviously with some patches of success, but in general, systems that haven't been effective in employer engagement. So in the full presentation that I developed, I did reflect a little bit on the broader literature on skill formation systems across the world, the international literature. I'm not going to go into that now. I've got one slide on that with a lot of references for those who are interested. And then I was going to talk a little bit more about reforms in South Africa since 1994. Of course, South Africa has, like most countries, many countries talk about introducing the dual system today. And I know that you have had a lot of engagement with colleagues from Switzerland and Germany, including many researchers from Germany at the conference today. And I know that many low and middle income countries and many African countries are very focused on introducing what they call dual system pilots, and we've had many of those in South Africa. But what's interesting is that actually apprenticeship systems are not new. I think the biggest difference between most countries and the German, Switzerland, Austria context is not whether or not there's dual training or whether or not there are apprenticeships. It's the scale question. It's the fact that apprenticeships have been widely embedded and have very high enrollment levels in those three countries and are very, very small in most other countries. And so we see a lot of efforts from policymakers to try and reinvent them, even though they have existed, and often we don't spend enough time reflecting on what's gone wrong or why haven't they been more broadly embedded across the economy, because this is obviously, the holy grail of employer-led training, if it actually works. And we just find that there's very, very limited success. Particularly what we find in low and middle income countries is pockets of success in small areas, but I've never to date seen any successful attempt at scaling up dual system training in low and middle income countries. So in South Africa in 1994, obviously there was a huge imperative to change the education system that was inherited from the apartheid government, and also to change the labor market that was shaped by apartheid and was very discriminatory, and the education system was intertwined with how the labor market was discriminatory. I'm not sure, are the slides visible yet or not? No, all right, I'll just carry on talking. I'm assuming that you're not looking at the slides.
You are audible, Prof?
So, I'm audible, but no slides.
Yes. Only the slides are not visible, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, hopefully the slides can be shared afterwards.
Yeah.
So in 1994, we had a Minister of Education in charge of all of our education providing institutions, and we had a Ministry of Labour, which was in charge of what was referred to as skills development, a national qualifications framework that was established under both ministries. And under the Ministry of Labour, we set up what were called the skills levy institutions. So we created a payroll levy in which all employers bigger than a quite small cutoff point pay 1% of their payroll. And we established 25 sectoral education and training authorities. Now, this was supposed to be a really key mechanism for employer engagement, and the idea of these authorities was that they would collect information from employers, thereby ensuring that we have really good insight into what the needs of the economy are, and that they would then direct funding into training programs that met industry-wide training needs, so that they would be broader than only the on-the-job training done by individual companies, which meets the needs of particular work processes and particular machinery, but doesn't necessarily meet a broader industry need. So the system was very much set up to build and ensure and enable employer engagement. There were many problems. In the, we created a lot of new institutions in South Africa after 1994. And I think with hindsight, one of the things that we didn't think through enough is how do you make new institutions, how fast can they start working? And what do they need to really work? And what kinds of support do they need? I think we were a bit overambitious. A lot of problems were experienced, particularly with the National Qualifications Framework, which I've written a lot about, so I have a lot of papers on that if anyone is interested in reading them. And so in 2009, there were very substantial changes. The National Qualifications Framework was completely changed, the model and how it works. A new Ministry of Higher Education and Training was created, and the SETAs, the Sectoral Education and Training Authorities, were moved to under the Ministry of Education and Training. In 2010, they were also reorganized because the idea was that they weren't well enough aligned with industry, economic sectors, and that is one of the big debates today about them. So we have these institutions, they're referred to in South Africa as the skills levy institutions, and really their key aim is to focus on relevant industry-led skills, building insight into skills needs, supporting companies to train, and also outside of company-based training, supporting the provision of education and training that really meets the needs of companies. And as I said, created through a payroll levy, in all sectors of the economy. So that's quite unusual. Many African countries are establishing sector skills bodies, but in the main, they are established in 2 or 3 sectors of the economy to start with. We created them in all sectors of the economy, and we created them identically with a very, very similar kind of institutional structure. The idea was that we would get, so as I said, employers pay a levy on their payroll, and the idea was that they would get part of that levy back if they submitted data on their skills needs. So they have to fill in a form. It's called the Workplace Skills Plan. Every year, they explain exactly what their key skills needs are. They also fill in a form called the Annual Training Report. And the theory of the system is that by collecting that information from employers, we build very good insight into what the needs of the economy are, and that will then enable our education and training system to meet those needs. Now, unfortunately, and we've done a lot of research on different aspects of the system, and I did include many of the references to our papers in the presentation. So when the presentation is shared, you will all be able to read more about that, and we always welcome engagement from anyone who is interested in exploring this further. There are many, many ways in which this system goes wrong. So one of them is that the forms that employers have to submit are very complicated, and so usually they're not actually filled in by employers at all. They're usually filled in by consultants that employers pay to kind of translate their skills needs into the format that government wants. One of the format issues that employers are uncomfortable with, we have an occupational framework. It's called the Organizing Framework for Occupations. It's based on the normal international models, but we adopted it somewhat for South African needs. And the problem with it is that employers are not familiar with it. It's not how they think about jobs. It's not how their organograms work. And so when they're thinking about their skills needs, they find it awkward to use this kind of language which government is requiring them to use. So that's one way in which it goes wrong. Another way in which it goes wrong is that because there are these two documents, the skills plan and the training report, employers initially were not given their money back unless they reported again that the training that they did met their skills plan. So they started cutting back on what they actually recorded in their skills plan to make sure that they only recorded the things that they could easily report on so that they would get their grant back. Now, that has changed a little bit over the years as the CPs did become a bit more flexible. But where it still malfunctions is that generally what you find from employers, and we've interviewed a lot of employers in this area, they don't list skills needs unless they think that they can get money from the CETA for that particular training intervention. So, there's a whole range of reasons, and sorry, there's two that I particularly should really highlight. One is that there's a lot of international research which suggests that employers are actually not always very good at explaining their skills needs, articulating their skills needs in ways that are easy for education and training systems to use, and also that the systems that we set up in South Africa were so complex that they kind of alienated employers, and we particularly don't get information from smaller employers. This got worse when the grant was changed so that employers, instead of getting 50% of their grant back, it was reduced to 20%, and so a lot of employers decided to just write it off as a tax. So, there's very serious problems with our system, and what you really see is, although the system was set up and that these structures are supposed to be the voice of industry, so the boards of all of these sectoral bodies have employer representation, they have union representation, and they're really supposed to capture the voice of industry on training, but because they are operating with a very rigid, overspecified kind of set of tools, and quite a rigid approach to funding and procurement of skills, actually employers are very alienated from them. So there are some employers who are participating in the boards, but most employers that you meet will do not believe that these institutions are really representing their needs at all. So it really highlights, I think, one of the conundrums of employer engagement. You know, in the what some researchers call the collective skill formation systems, which particularly includes the DACH countries, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, what you find is that employers do actually collaborate in various ways. There's various built-in mechanisms in the economy for employers or occupational bodies to collaborate. The problem outside of those countries is that employers don't work together, they don't collaborate, and I think what many countries have adopted is models that originated in the United Kingdom, where the assumption was, if you set up an institution that has employer representativity on it, and the aim of that institution is to engage with employers, employer engagement becomes a simple thing to do. And I think that what we really find is that that's not the case. Employer engagement is an ongoing challenge, and it's got a whole lot of different layers, and it's actually really complex. I know that Prof. Gessler shared the findings of one of our recent pieces of research, which shows how many different ways in which this kind of dynamic can go wrong. But a few other points that I'd just like to share from our
Prof, I'm giving you 4 more minutes.
4 minutes?
Yes,
okay.
4 more minutes.
All right.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll just highlight one, and that is one point in relation to the systems of the institution, and that is that we've developed, which are based very much on models from the United Kingdom, as I said, assume that the state can play a regulatory model, a regulatory role, and that it can kind of build these intermediary organizations between employers and education and training. And instead, what we've created is just another layer of bureaucracy which has sort of a life of its own, but isn't really mediating between those different bodies. Now, we held a series of high-level dialogues, and I put some of the references into the slides so people can look them up. There's some very short briefs that we produced where we really got together captains of industry, union representatives, as well as education and training and government representatives to try and talk through some of these issues. Because I think the paradox of South Africa is that we have so many institutions set up for coordination and employer engagement, and yet employers feel like they're really not being engaged and their voices really aren't coming through. And so what we spend quite a lot of time looking at is why so many engagements fail. And one of the things that emerged is that many employer engagements try to do too many different things, and they're not sufficiently clear about the core objective. We don't get the right people in the room when we're working with employers. And in particular, what we find is that we've got one of the ways in which we do engage employers extensively in South Africa is through our qualifications design system. They're involved in qualifications, scoping, and developing curricula, and developing qualifications, and developing assessment, and yet they still feel like the qualifications are not the qualifications that they need. And part of it is because we don't get the right people in the room. We tend to get HR practitioners from industries that aren't really in touch with the core needs of the industry. So those are some of the challenges. And so, really what we are, there's been, I don't know if anyone in Namibia has followed this, but there's been a lot of media coverage of these bodies, our SETAs, our sexual education bodies, because they are seen as getting a lot of money from the state, from the payroll levy, and many people are questioning the value add from that money, and certainly there are very, very serious problems with them. So there's a process underway at the moment in South Africa to overhaul them. What we don't yet know is how extensively they're going to be changed. There's very strong lobbies that, particularly from industry, to get rid of them completely. My argument is that we do need sectoral engagement, and we do need to find ways of getting employers to talk to each other, but that we do need to quite dramatically simplify and streamline these structures. So we're engaged in those dialogues and processes at the moment. And yeah, I'd be really happy to share any more details with anyone who is interested on your side. And that was, I'm sorry about that, somewhat rushed presentation. I had been given a much longer slot, so I had prepared a much longer presentation. But I hope that that does share a few ideas from our experiences in South Africa.
Thank you so much. Prof, can we put our hands together for Professor Stephanie? Right, I hope you heard the audience is clapping hands for you, Professor. I think there are two things that I have noted from your presentation, Prof, is that you said the engagement, employer engagement, is a complex thing, and I think most of you are agreeing. And the other thing is that you said you have never seen a successful adoption of a dual system in any of these countries which try maybe to adopt the dual system. I think if I get you right. So I'll end there for now. I have a question for you, but I will... yes, Prof?
Can I clarify that?
Excuse?
Yeah. What I said is, I've never seen a dual system at scale in a low and middle income country. So where they are successful, it's small numbers and in small niche areas. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't actually think it's scalable the way it is in the German-speaking countries.
Exactly. Thank you, Prof. I'm inviting 3 questions from the audience. If you have any question to pose to Professor Stephanie about what she just presented. I see a hand from Durango. 1. Can I see? Right, there's another hand there. Right? Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, a certain situation we found in South Africa, how they've dealt with.
Prof, are you hearing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. I was part of the team which established the QCTO in South Africa in charge of Tvet, what we were discussing, and we looked at that whole process.
Just speak up.
We looked at the whole process, we said, of mapping do the job profiles assessment, and we worked with the facilitators, establishing the QCTO in charge of Tvet. They are still in charge of Tvet in South Africa. We were there, 2010, we worked there. And the problem we found was many people did not have qualifications because according to the system, you had to pass the institution-based assessment, industry attachment, and other things. Oh no, you had to pass theory at the college, practical at the college, and then industry attachment. And many people did not get attachments. And we found many people without qualifications because of that. Some have spent 3 years after college without a certificate because they couldn't get industry placements. How was this system solved now? Was it solved or is it still a problem?
Right, that's one. Let's have the second one, then we give Prof the chance to respond.
Thank you. Yeah, mine is just perhaps to request for the experience of South Africa in terms of assisting graduates, and not only those that are from the Tvet education system, but also from the professional education system, because the two are supposed to work together. And what we need to advocate is for collaboration in terms of maybe starting enterprises together, because for example, if an artisan wants to start a construction company as a core business, one would need the support from the other fields of HR, finance, marketing, and so on. And really that's the point of departure to promoting entrepreneurship. If we are to achieve what we want in terms of eradicating poverty and doing away with the tradition of training for the street, because of course we know our trainees or graduates that we produce are not are lacking those soft skills and drive to establish and run enterprises. Yeah. So the question is perhaps South Africa having a structured model that match the different professionals and Tvet graduates, so that they start and operationalize sustainable enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, I'll just, there's another one. Third one there. The last one.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Prof. Good afternoon, everyone. Mine is actually just on, it's a bit almost out of context in terms of what you have presented, but mine is mainly on RPL candidates. Just wanted to establish, I know in olden days, South Africa had Section 26 and Section 28 artisans in terms of certifications. Now, from your side, I would like to understand the process that you undertake currently in terms of certifying artisans. One is, how do you differentiate between the two in terms of your certification? I also want to understand what your assessment currently comprises of in terms of certifying these RPL candidates. So perhaps allude us on that RPL process, assessment process in that regard.
Let me just see if I get your question correctly. So you're asking on the certification procedure, and you're referring to Section 26, Section 28.
No. What I'm referring to is in olden days, they used to have that Section 26 and Section 28 that differentiate between an artisan that went through a formal system,
mainstream,
and an artisan that went through RPL.
Apprentice.
So,
RPL.
yes. Now, in terms of this current RPL process, do they still undertake the same process, or do they came up with a new process of certifying these artisans, and what does it require to certify an artisan through RPL?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Prof, are you there? The first question is it still the status quo? Is it still that in 2010, there was a challenge of students not graduating due to lack of job attachment opportunities?
Yeah.
Is it still the case? That's the first question. The second question is about whether South Africa has a structured framework of helping graduates, not only from TVET, just graduates from higher education institutions to establish their own enterprises. And then the last question, the third question is about the certification of students who went through the mainstream and also those who went through the RPL. In the past, it was Section 26, Section 28. Is it still the practice, or there is a change in that? And the last question is from myself. You just mentioned about this employee engagement as a big elephant, a complex thing that we need to address. We want to start biting this elephant. Can you just give us an advice of how do we start? Because we need to address it. Yes, it is complex, but we need to do something about what can you advise? And the issues you have alluded to are issues that are, Namibia is facing them, all of us. What can we do? Where do we start biting this elephant? Is it from the trunk? Is it from the back? Where? Thank you, Prof.
Okay. On the first question, the problem remains. Many of our qualifications still have a requirement for work experience which learners are unable to secure. The QCTO has tried lots of ways around it, and one of the things that we're looking at now is to have simulated work experience if learners can't get a work placement. So it has been addressed in patches. It still remains for many of the qualifications. In terms of entrepreneurship and small business support, we have, I wouldn't say we have one systematic structure. We have a lot of different initiatives that are supposed to help people in small businesses. So we have lots of different kinds of training programs. We have lots of small pockets of support. So there's incubator models, particularly in universities of technology. There are funding models that are available, loan systems that are available, support that is available. They're not always very systematic, and they don't necessarily all fit together very well. And I think there's probably too high an expectation of entrepreneurship because, one thing that's really consistent if you look at economies around the world, including strong economies, most small businesses fail. It's very, very hard to start a small business. A few succeed and then they become big businesses. A few succeed and remain small businesses. But actually, if your economy isn't creating jobs, the chances that it can really sustain small businesses are low. So, what we really need in all of our countries is structural economic change. And I don't think that entrepreneurship on its own will actually solve the problems that we're facing. But having said that, yes, the answer is we do have a range of different types of support that are there for small businesses. In terms of RPL, again, there isn't one system. There's a range of different systems and approaches depending on how and where RPL is being used. So, for example, you can use RPL to get access to an education program. So, we've given people we run a master's program in education and work at the Real Center, and we have RPL people who don't meet the requirements into that qualification. We've got a very systematic process for it, and they have generally done very well and been very successful in that program. For artisans in specific, they write a trade test, and a trade test gives you a license to practice in that trade. The problem is that to write the trade test, you do need to have signed work experience. You need a range of things in order to be able to write the trade test. But whether or not you've been through a formal education program or not, you are able to write a trade test. So yeah, the RPL, the certification based on RPL differs from sector to sector, from qualification to qualification. There isn't one set of rules and ways in which it's done. I'd say it's still fairly sporadic and fairly haphazard in most cases. And then the last system on biting the elephant, well, I think that's a tricky one. And I think it's one that maybe we should talk through in greater depth another time. But I think that I would say that it really depends on what you want to achieve. So, you know, that's why I was trying to foreground, out of the skills dialogues that we hosted, we really tried to distill.
Then there's a technical problem. I had a sound like like internet is down. Muted. Tech team. We can't hear. Oh my gosh. All right. I think in the interest of time, we have to proceed. We are unable to hear Prof, but I think we have heard what she said.
Is that kind of, is that kind of, is that kind of, is
Prof, are you able to?
focusing on what you're trying to achieve in each of them. If you're looking for expertise for a curriculum, okay, I'm getting a message saying that you can't hear me. Maybe there's a problem with the network.
Yes. We didn't hear you for the past 1 minute.
You can hear now. Yeah, so what I was really trying to say is that it really depends. I think it's really important to get the right people into the right kinds of engagements and dialogues. So not to assume that everyone who represents an employer represents the whole industry or even that particular company. So that's one thing that I would really urge, and really thinking through, what do we want an employer voice for on this particular industry, and on this particular issue, and if this is the issue, who do we want? Do we want an industry association? Do we want an actual employer? Do we want maybe a researcher who has expertise in the field? So I think it's about being much more Tvet, and so we have to be really, really careful when we approach them and ask them for their time.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much for your response. Can we give her another round of applause? Thank you, Prof, and have a good day, or you will still be joining us online. All right, we are moving on with the program. Let me call to the stage Ms. Rusa Itula Hango. She's the acting manager for Tvet Standards, Namibia Training Authority. She will be the moderator for the third and the last panel discussion on the topic global expertise and competitiveness in Tvet.
Thank you, Christophine. Dr. Junius. Good afternoon, distinguished guests and colleagues. My name is Rusa Itula Hango, as it was said, and I'm honored to moderate this discussion or these sessions on global expertise and competitiveness in Tvet. The objective of this discussion is merely to explore strategies collaborations and innovations that can really just enhance Namibia's global competitiveness and expertise in Tvet, and as well as just to have a world-class innovation Tvet system that is capable of producing skilled workers who can compete anywhere, not just in Namibia, but elsewhere. As we all know, the world of work is really rapidly transforming, and this is due to globalization, digitalization, and green transitions. So for Namibia's Tvet system to remain relevant, it must be competitive, not only within our borders, but also globally. So we are joined this afternoon by a panel of distinguished experts who will be sharing their views and expertise on this important topic. So therefore, allow me to welcome or introduce the panelists. The first is Mr. Martin Wilkinson. He is the Senior Economic Development Manager, Training and Development at Hyphen Hydrogen Energy. Mr. Martin Wilkinson, he is a mechanical engineer by profession, and he has dedicated nearly 30 years to advancing Tvet in Namibia. He's originally from the UK, but this morning I think we have heard from him that we have adopted him. So he arrived in Namibia in 1997 as a technical volunteer for Oxfam Rundu Water Project, and has since played a proactive role in shaping the Namibian skills development landscape. His career has included work with Lux Development, Kayak Trust, Millennium Challenge Account, and GIZ Pro Tvet. Currently, Martin is at Hyphen, where he works within the company's social and economic development workstream, developing hierarchy of training concepts for emerging green hydrogen skills ecosystem. This spans across all the NQF levels, from the artisan training and apprenticeships through to postgraduate scholarships for research. He currently serves as a member of the NTA Industry Skills Committee for the mining and energy. So welcome, Mr. Wilkinson. The next panelist is Mr. Gunther Ruber. He is a partner officer at DAPP Namibia. Mr. Gunther has built a diverse career in agriculture, spanning from commercial farming, advisory services, and agricultural education. He specialized in designing and facilitating training programs with a strong focus on experiential and competency-based learning. Since 2010, he has contributed to 8 Tvet initiatives through the NTA and Pro Tvet, as well as coordinating the Erasmus Plus SAS Tvet project, supporting the offering of levels 4 and 5 agriculture qualifications. He holds a master's in sustainable agriculture and has a diploma, a national diploma in occupationally directed education, training, and development. He is part of the DAPP Namibia team supporting community upliftment and vocational training through DAPP Vocational Training School. So welcome, Mr. Ruber. And then our last panelist is Mr. Giernot Pep Meyer. He is the Secretary General of the Namibian National Commission for UNESCO under the Ministry of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sports, Arts and Culture. Mr. Pep Meyer has more than 25 years of experience in teaching, curriculum development and science, technology and innovation policy. He began his career as a teacher of mathematics, physics, physical science before joining the National Institute for Education Development, NIED, where he led the transition of mathematics and science curricula from the Cambridge system to the National Senior Secondary Certificate. He later served as the Namibia Commission of Research on Research, Science and Technology at NCRST, where he managed policy and innovation programs. His current work advances all 5 UNESCO priority areas with a focus on skills development, innovation, and international collaborations. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Pep Meyer. Each panelist will share their views on providing their perspectives and thoughts on some of the key questions. And after that, I'll open the floor to the audience for interactions. And this is if and when really times permits. To start off our conversation, let's look at how international collaboration can enhance the quality and global relevance of our Tvet system. So I'll give you each 1 minute to provide your insights and views. And the first question is, how can Namibia leverage international partnerships to enhance the quality and relevance of its Tvet programs? Could we start perhaps with Mr. Pep Meyer?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am, on the first question, would like to concentrate only on 2 areas in terms of the international view on Namibia's investment climate. And the first factor I would like on is to look at the co-financing component towards work-based integrated learning or equipment. And obviously when we hear that, our first thought goes to leveraging the Tvet fund in terms of paying for such an activities. But the question comes now from an international perspective. Will the Tvet levy pay for an international partner? Now, when we look at financing it from a financing institution perspective, will a Namibian institution take the risk of funding an international partner, or vice versa? Will an international bank be able to finance in Namibia institutions? So in terms of the investment of international partners, that is one factor which needs to be looked at. The second component is reducing the risk. So from the Tvet sector, we will have to include other ministries also. And I'm looking there in particular at the ministry involved with Home Affairs, because when you would come as an international role player into the Tvet field, you want to reduce your risk. And one of the areas is then, do I, or am I assured of getting the relevant visas? Do I get my work visas, to get my staying visa if I'm investment? So in terms of international participation, these would be then two contributions, would have a closer look into the leveraging of financing, from the Tvet levy and banking institution in Namibia, and B, apart from others, but one of them having Home Affairs involved in reducing the risk of having the insurance to having the right visas of such international cooperation partners in Namibia.
Thank you, Mr. Pip Meyer. Mr. Gunther?
Yeah, thank you. Just a little bit of background. My response is quite limited to agricultural vocational education and training. And so I narrowed down my responses to my experiences. And the question has an interesting phrase: to enhance quality and relevance of Tvet.
Yes.
What is quality? It's quite subjective. What some might regard as perfect quality can't be better, otherwise said it's totally imperfect, it needs to be improved. So who's the judge? Who do we listen to? And I think that's a conflict I'm exposed to regularly, is if it comes to determining satisfaction with the quality. So it's really a difficult point. Then the next point is relevance. Relevance for what? You know, with agriculture, we have target groups. Initially, we said we want to produce skilled farm laborers. Meanwhile, the situation has changed. We need youngsters, the youth, with skills to become self-employed, to become producers. So there's a shift of the target group. So the relevance thereof is changing. Okay, and now to the next question. How can we strategically gain from international partners? First question is, why international? Don't we have the local capacity available? That is the first question. Or do we think something that comes from abroad is better? So we definitely need a combination thereof. I think we have excellent expertise here. If it is combined with international partners, it's perfect. Okay, and how can we? I think it depends on viable opportunities. And that starts with benchmarking. What is benchmarking? Through benchmarking, we determine shortcomings. What does it require that we exchange, that we see what's going on the other side of the world, on the neighboring countries, and they see what's going on here. And then we see, how do we go about, how can we improve, how do we need to improve, okay, and what will be outcome. And then lastly, it comes to the partnerships. As said before, a successful partnership depends on the people assigned to drive a project. I think I stop here.
Thank you, Mr. Gunther. And lastly, Martin.
Thanks, Rusa. I know it looks like we're all related up here. It looks like a revival. It looks like One Direction has got back together in 20 years' time, but we're not related. In the Tvet family.
I forgot to mention that I'm not a joker like Mr. Shindi. Where is Mr. Shindi? So just bear with me. So I've got my shirumbus in front of me. So yeah. Proper shirumbus, yes.
But I'm a Kavango on the inside, you know.
Exactly.
Now I'm Gozo. Let me continue. So I think I'll just answer the first part. Is it in partnerships? Strictly, I think it was about practical partnerships as well. And I'm really happy that in the last year we've been quite busy at Hyphen as part of our feasibility implementation agreement with government. We have to be working on the ecosystem. I see Gunther's notes there. I saw over his shoulder it says ecosystem, and I'm glad I can also talk to that, which is building the capacity of training provision across all of our Tvet institutions, public and private, to make sure that they're ready for oil, gas, hydrogen, whatever it might be. I think I'll start with the biggest one that in the last, in November last year, we submitted a proposal, collaboration between Hyphen, Zero, NUST, NamWater and NIMT. We submitted a proposal to EU Global Gateway, the Tvet organization. And I think out of, I'm not going to say how many proposals there were, it's a bit disingenuous of me, but we won, hey Nicholas, we came out on top and we won the country 2 million euros, about 40 million Namibian dollars, to really focus on what everyone's been talking about here. Thank you very much. At least I don't have to ask for the applause like Mr. Shindi does. Then, or maybe it's just money that talks. Then, or claps. So essentially we tried to focus that proposal on everything that we've been talking about today, which is training of trainers. It's breaking that glass ceiling of level 3. So some of that money is going towards improving the levels of qualifications from 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, so that we can have trainers teaching down 6, 5, 4. So that's the work of NUST. Then we'll have a combination of long courses and short courses for unemployed level 3 graduates who can upskill in the areas that we see as a key priority. And so that boosts employability. So we're not just training a whole brand new bunch of people from school. We're looking at, do you remember I said this morning, those who are in the room, we're looking at those taxi drivers that have a level 3 certificate, and we want to invite them into NamWater. We want to invite them into NIMT and give them complementary but new skills that when they appear on our databases, they'll be employable. We also work with Fraunhofer, a German institute in Germany, strangely enough, and then who have been developing green hydrogen production, transportation and storage courses. We had 6 graduates from all sorts of backgrounds who were enrolled on that course as pilot kind of feedback participants. So they did a 6 to 8 week, I think it was about an 8-week course online with a group of other people from around the world. So that kind of collaboration and partnership is very international. And all of our students gave important feedback to the quality of that course that's now been built in and it's starting to be established. When it's properly registered with the Fraunhofer Institute, they can do an exam in it, I think, in December. So they'll get some international recognition from that. Dr. Gessler and I meet quite often to talk about the industrial mechatronics qualification. Is it needed for industry? What components are needed for industry? So he's from Bremen University. We're also working very closely with the Institute of Welding, International Institute of Welding, to try and create that pyramid of welding practitioners that isn't just about training welders down here that do our trestles and our burglar bars, but to start at the top of the pyramid, which is welding engineers from UNAM Ongwediva. 10 of them I always wanted to sponsor, but maybe we still will. And then you get welding coordinators, then you get welding technologists, and so you get 10, and then you get 20, and then you get 50 of these people that look after the quality assurance of welding and the design and the welding procedures. And you need those in place before you can even get to 50 or 100 coded welders or specialist welders. So we're really looking to work with the Institute of Welding, which is obviously international. So that's a brief overview. Oh, sorry, there's one more. Africa Verin is an institute of German companies that we collaborated with last month. Maybe you saw some of the posts on LinkedIn to introduce Namibian businesses to German businesses and start making those links. So whatever Germany wants to have let me not say a foothold before everyone gets like flag waving and whatever. But those skills and expertise and business intelligence comes here. And then like Parastas Napolo that was here yesterday with all of his businesses of air conditioning and ducting and whatever, they team up, they see where their collaboration lies with local knowledge, and then they're in a good position to tender with all of their scope fully established. So Africa Verin is another partnership, and I think that's probably my minute, is it not?
It's over a minute though. Thank you very much for that insightful views and important key takeaways from that discussion was especially from Mr. Pep Meyer. where he talks of co-financing, and this is perhaps one area that we have not been mentioning in this discussion. What is that risk on financing international partners? So, and the other one was issues of reducing those risk factors, especially on the example he gave in terms of home affairs. What assurance do we have as partners or international partners with our local ministries? Another key takeaway was on exchange, as well as the benchmarking of activities, practical partnerships, and Martin really just touched on some of the examples that the project is currently working on. Now that we have or heard how important global connections are, my next question wants to dig deeper in terms of the focus on practical side of collaboration. And I think Martin has already touched on some of the practical collaborations and partnerships that the team is working on. What practical steps can be taken to attract international expertise and build collaboration networks that enhance Namibia's Tvet system? Martin? Briefly, because most of the examples were already provided by you.
I think international expertise, we're pretty good, aren't we? I mean, I've been in Namibia 30 years, and I came as an international person, and I stayed. And ever since then, there's been volunteers, there's been experts, there's been collaboration with all sorts of different countries. So we're still good at that. I just think that those experts that come kind of nibble at the edges. They don't really get involved in the real, like, meat and potatoes issues. And I think Gunter also said that we probably got the expertise in country to deal with our problems. So I think we can still keep talking, collaborating. We can still keep benchmarking, but there's not many countries, is there any country in the world that's like Namibia? I don't know. We're so unique with such a young population that our biggest problem is a huge number of young people, a relatively small economy, and an even smaller number of training outlets. What do we do with all of those kids that we are leaving behind? And we always say leave no one behind, but what do we do? So I think without taking too much time, we are good at international expertise. We should keep talking, keep collaborating, but we still need to solve a lot of problems at home on our own.
So Gunter?
Yes, what attracts expertise? Opportunities do. So what are the opportunities to attract? I think in Namibia we have the development agenda, focus on climate change mitigation, adaptation, on job creation, it's very critical, increased food production, self-sustainability. You know, that is the opportunities where we can come together. But what is partnership about?
Your mic?
Is it better now? Okay. You know, it must be built on a win-win situation. Have we ever thought, what is in for the partner? What is in for us? Why are the calls of proposals which stipulate what needs to be done, what can be funded? Okay, and that is basically how it works in my environment is, how do we attract? There's a call. How can we meet the requirements for the call? How can we attract the partner to fund us, to work together with us? Okay, and that is where I say it is very much industry related, that is on the bigger picture. The other component on partnerships, which is a little bit neglected, is what Martin referred to as volunteers. Individuals coming in, supporting us on whatever other basis. Long-term, attached to the vocational training provider, attached to the problem, taking hands, working together, achieving the goal jointly. I think that is a critical component. We cannot forget it's on a large scale, low profile, but very effective, very important. Thank you.
And lastly?
That's how I came here, of course, isn't it?
Thank
and
you.
get me to stay.
I would like to look at two perspectives. The first one is the NQF +1 and +2 principle. So if I would like to have a qualification on NQF level 3, my trainer at least needs to be on NQF level 4, and the person training that lecturer or trainer needs to be at least on NQF level 5. So in these areas where we need international expertise in qualifying, accrediting the trainer's qualification, that would be one of the first practical components I look at. But the second component, we always look at international experts. But why can't we flip the coin around and contribute to be international experts? And in that, by achieving accreditation and certification on Namibian NQF level, SADC NQF level, and international levels. To have an example, we need to reward our pioneers and innovators. We have specific now initiatives in Namibia where at least 3 companies are producing or are going to produce the first hydrogen molecules. So there are certain international skills, e.g. the hydrogen truck conversion from diesel to hydrogen. There are skills which are first in the world. We have already buses and trucks with running on fuel cells. The operator and the technician of that fuel cells, of those 3 companies in Namibia, they all have electrolyzers. The people installing those electrolyzers, maintaining those electrolyzers, those operators, and I can go on, the transportation and storage of nitrogen, all of these are first. So these qualifications need to be accredited, need to be certified in Namibia, in SADC and international, that those new qualifications can also be exported. So Namibia, where we have a problem with employing our youth, suddenly I have a first in the world qualification. We heard earlier today there was a course already in firefighting in hydrogen fires. That is a first. So why can't Namibia have international SADC and national accredited specialists on hydrogen fire where these can be utilized in South Africa, in Morocco, Mauritania, I never can get that name right, so in North Africa where there is green hydrogen. So rather than looking at international experts, why can't Namibia be producing those international experts? Qualified, accredited, certified here in Africa and international.
Thank you. And what I can take from this discussion is that all the panels are talking of local expertise, where we need just to have visiting expertise or volunteers coming into the country. However, there is one important takeaway that I have, or which was mentioned by one of the panelists in terms of accrediting qualifications on the NQF. And I think one of the discussion today was in terms of, or yesterday was in terms of the period that takes for us to get those qualifications on the framework versus the micro-credentials. Do we really need full qualifications for those skills that are emerging, or we need upskilling of existing workforce that we currently have and reskilling perhaps with shorter courses? And perhaps those are some of the discussions and thoughts that we need to also interrogate in terms of qualification development and ensuring that qualifications are registered on those framework. do we need full qualifications or not? From an industry perspective. Any?
I'd say it's, sorry, go ahead.
For me, I would not be so much worried about the short-term qualification micro-credential. For me, my passion lies in accreditation nationally and in SADC in order to increase the mobility of those workers. So if I can get a micro-credential in Namibia, it should be valid in South Africa, Botswana, Angola, or Morocco, or in Brussels, or in Dubai. So if that is achieved, regardless of my short courses, of my upskilling, of my retraining, or my micro-credential, it should just give me this portability or mobility to actually have the confidence of working all over the region in this new field.
And again, yesterday there was, I don't know whether it was from Mr. Limbo's presentation or Joseph, the focus here is more really on international standards. If we then have to say that these qualifications or micro-credentials are registered and accredited locally or regionally, will the international arena accept the mobility of our workforce? Martin, perhaps?
Yeah, I think any move towards a kind of a continental accreditation is good because it's relevant to where you're working, let's say. I'm just thinking from what Gernot said, I really agree with him, but from an industry point of view that could be starting quite soon, I do like the focus on short courses and the micro-credentialing, and whether that's qualified, in inverted commas, by an actual process of accreditation, or whether it's qualified by the fact that that makes a person employable, they get the job, they perform, the training provider that delivered that micro-credential is now seen as a quality training provider by the industry, then that's also a qualification, is it not?
It is.
If I'm working for 20 years and I'm still employed and I've got references, that's a qualification. It doesn't have to have a hologram and a watermark or whatever. It's my CV is my qualification. And I think we have to start thinking a little bit out of the box in terms of how we meet those skills needs for emerging economies and emerging sectors, but not ever throw the baby out with the bathwater and stop accrediting, stop quality assuring anything that we do, because it's a benchmark against each training needs to be benchmarks against each other. So I think it's a combination of everything, and that's probably what makes the question so difficult to answer, is because not one solution fits everything, but we need to be innovative and adaptable. And I think when training providers want to maybe go to NTA and say, you're funding me for this, but I also want to do this, NTA should consider the this as well, depending on the evidence as to why they should do it. Okay. Because there's a lot of, I think, there's a lot of pushing training providers through a certain pipeline that doesn't provide for innovation. And I think we really need to start innovating, and we need to start being flexible, and we need to start listening to the demands of industry, who anyway will do a lot of training on the job as well, especially in the green hydrogen sector, with contractors coming in with an obligation to train. They will definitely look for a database of somehow relatively experienced people, and then they will train them to do relatively simple tasks, but building on complexity as different facilities are constructed. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. And finally, the final question that I have to the panel is, how can Tvet training provider foster a culture of innovation and entrepreneurships that competes beyond Namibia's borders?
Shall I go?
Anyone can go first.
Okay, Lisa, I think it was mentioned again and again. It's time to make agriculture sexy. Okay, how do we do it? We have to be innovative. We have to include the newest technologies, approaches, techniques in our system. We shouldn't get stuck by unit standards and what they demand from us. It was said before, go beyond it, be innovative, do something like that. And that's what it starts at home, it starts with the trainers. If you have a committed teams of trainers, they look around, they're exposed to the bigger world, to what is going on, what is applicable to us. Can't we introduce as a sideline, even if you want assessed against it, even if it's not part of the qualification. Make a proposal. So if they have good ideas, what is the next step? The Tvet training provider need a management who is supportive to it, who listens, who accommodates, and who supports. And I think that is important. This concept of upskilling of trainers, PPD, or what do you call it? Ongoing, CPD is the other term. Okay, and I think that is so important that there is time allocated. One trainer told me, listen, I need 50% for training, 50% for admin. How does he have time to do some research, to expose himself to? Is it WhatsApp group? Is it online research? Is it attendance of Farmers' Day? A lot of it is offered here in Windhoek. But the trainers on the north, private training providers, there's no funding to send them. So we need a budget. We need a policy. We basically need support. Okay, and
Next.
yeah, I think in principle I can go on and on, but that is what it is. There is so many opportunities outside. If I go to the training providers, why haven't you seen what? It is a little bit frustrating, and that is why agriculture at certain Tvet institutions is a bit unsexy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next. Any?
I would love for the VTCs and private training providers as well to start looking at why aren't they making, and maybe they are as well. I'm looking at Tate Lucas, especially from my Rundu VTC, who wants to venture into green hydrogen just even as an introductory course, aside to the courses that you run already. I listed here, years ago I made a small electrolyzer myself when I was engineering in the UK. So we can make models of electrolyzers. We can definitely make models of wind turbines. We have no wind turbine instructional facility here yet, or training program, but definitely we can start to make little generators, see how they work, what's the theory behind it. We can start doing that. This is the innovation. I guess it's sort of entrepreneurship as well, because if you also have model desalination, where's Richard with the NAM Water guys? They're going to be doing desalination. VTCs are moving into water care as well. And I think we can start making models with our trainees that we could even professionalize and sell out into the wider community, maybe schools as well for pre-voc, and then just start to kind of innovate there in the areas that we're looking at. I think I'll leave that there.
Okay.
Apart from, did I mention the skill sensors? Yes, I did.
For me, the mechanism of your RPL should be also further developed, because it is that recognition of my prior learning that, especially in the new field, could be the next step of being an entrepreneur. And I'm thinking now, again, I'm a plumber. Now I had on-the-job training on connecting hydrogen piping. Yeah. Now there's a big tender in South Africa, which lies the first hydrogen pipeline. So me, as a small-time entrepreneur, could also have my foot into that opportunity, because I have the experience, I have the on-the-job training of that particular skill. So that could be then the first step into me being entrepreneur outside, a Namibian entrepreneur outside Namibia.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think one thing that is worth mentioning is also the support of incubations and startup at training institutions, where trainees really get that mentorship and workspace where they could develop their ideas into bigger businesses. Allow me now to open the floor to the audience on questions or reflections. And I want only about 2 questions. And 2 questions, perhaps I can also be lenient to allow a 3rd question, but please, your comments should be short as possible. Yeah. There is 1, 2, and then 3. So those 3 questions, the mics, please. Okay, we start with Mr. Or we can start that side.
Thank you very much. My name is Helvi Ileka, and I am the center head at the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Institute at the Namibia Energy Institute at NAST. I would like to make a quick reflection to some of your questions. For example, short courses, how do we, should we accredit them or should we use some more short courses? I've implemented a project called SolTrain, Solar Thermal Training and Demonstration Initiative at NAST. And the course has a number of components. One is to train. We targeted first to train the industry, and we realized the course was of a higher level, and we decided to introduce it to the VTCs. So that's how we basically developed the unit standards of the solar technology. And we also found when we are evaluating those unit standards that we do not have trainers. And with that, I have to indicate to say, yes, we can start with the short courses. Obviously, accredited short courses, there are a number of them in the region that are accredited already. And, for example, from my experience running these short courses of SolTrain, for example, you find that the participants always lack the science, the foundation science, and it will not still make them experts. So one still need to go back to the curriculum to develop, to introduce the science, to also introduce more specialized and also what you've basically said, the incubation is very important. That's where I wanted to add. This is basically where I am now, trying to see how do we develop really, because with this project, we even promoted women, we even developed the curriculum, we have demonstration systems, but still, it did not help much. We still needed a more specialization course. For example, if you look in South Africa, they have...
Round up, please.
Yes, I will round up now. If you look in South Africa, they have also what they call, sorry, now I miss it. But also the one component which I wanted to really highlight is for us to look at the current levy, our levy. We have done analysis during the time when we were doing the P2X study to see how is it really benefiting the entrepreneurs, the companies, and the students at the same time. I would like to highlight that I was one of the lucky students who went through the apprenticeship program here in Namibia and in Germany. But I have to tell you that funding is more important than its local funds, which is required. For example, when I was going through my apprentice, I was getting paid. We were getting paid even from the from the VTC. But now that whole program is taken away. And so that's why it does not really, like when I go to the industry, for example, the solar industry, which is very small, they are telling me we are already paying the levy. What are you doing with the levy? So what I really think is for us to go back to the drawing board and review the levy currently and see how it can benefit both the institutions and both the companies.
Thank you,
So
Ms.
thank
Nleka.
you very much.
All right. Next, I think there was a hand there by Lewis.
Just 5 seconds.
And
I
that
want
was
to-
just a reflection from
Yes.
Ms. Ileka in terms of issues of programs that are already accepted by industry. So with the introduction of micro-credentials, I think these are some of the programs that can already then be implemented through those initiatives.
Yes, I'm just commenting, but I just want to highlight that my comments are based on our meetings with the partnership and EU as well, what we are assigned to do and what the EU is willing to fund on the way forward. And these are the issues. Response, micro-credentials. I know, Rusa, now you are on the committee. We, EU was assigned to assist in the development of the micro-credential policy, and I think people are nearly giving up. We said we want to respond to industry. Industry wants micro-credentials.
Yes.
You can't work for 2 years developing a policy for micro-credentials because micro-credentials are part of the NQF. You just put them on the framework. There's no policy which takes 2 years on micro-credential to accreditation of short courses. Nowhere in the world. Now, if you are taking 2 years to develop a policy on how to accredit short courses on the framework, which I know we did in Sierra Leone in 2 weeks, using the African Continental Qualifications Framework. They've defined it already in what we should follow under the ACQF, which is actually following the our regional qualification. So I'm just saying, let's do this quickly. Industry wants micro-credentials. Every year they are talking about it, and we are taking 2 years. And also, why
Can you
people...
summarize, please, Mr. Durango?
Yes. Sorry, I'm paid for giving the recommendations. That's why I was talking. I have to report. Okay, I'm just highlighting the issues which are key.
Yes.
And they're not going to fund short courses which are not accredited on the framework. That's what I'm saying. On the planning we're going to do in Kitmans, the funding will be, we have been assigned that all courses which are going to be developed under EU funds should be accredited on the framework because they have a partnership with the government. They are supporting government, and the government wants the qualifications to be there. And now, we're starting developing the qualifications in November. Micro-credentials are not there. It's a problem. And then duration of accreditation. Qualifications submitted to NQF for accreditation take a long time. I think there should be time
I think
limit.
those are some of the issues that we have highlighted already in terms of
I'm just
the
saying,
process that takes a bit longer.
but I'm just saying internationally people give NQA time. You know that when you submit a qualifications to the Australian qualifications framework, you know how long they will take to review it and come back to you. There's a time given. You can't just take the qualification and take your own time. The time limit is given, and on this general science, she mentioned it, the major problem is still coming up, is that the science is not related to the areas they are studying. You can't teach the same science to a hairdresser and the same science to an electrician. These general subjects. Nowhere in the world is this happening. The hairdresser requires less calculations or maths than an electrician. So you have to have trade-related
And your
theory.
question is to the panel. Thank you, Mr. Durango, for highlighting out those issues. Yes, the committee was just established a week or 2 weeks ago, so it hasn't taken the NQA at least 2 years to develop a framework. However, there is really a need to develop that framework in terms of quality assuring those micro-credentials and certification thereof of those micro-credentials. And then the last question from Mr. Limbo.
Thank you, Madam
Or
Chair.
contribution.
I think you need to get a buzzer to control some of the speakers like Luis. Thank you. My question is really to Mr. Gunter. I think very critical in terms of the agriculture sector. I'm glad that there is this inclination towards moving away from skills development, focusing on farm workers, but really more moving in the direction of inculcating a culture of agribusiness among young people. I want to know, I presume you are somehow in a position to speak in a way for the agriculture sector, if I may assume so. In terms of really scaling up, you see, agriculture Tvet, I know the good work that was done, for instance, at Zambezi VTC by Mr. Kambinda and his colleagues. I come from the Zambezi region. One of the challenges I've observed a lot of graduates from those agri-Tvet programs at Zambezi VTC. They end up, they become machine operators, driving tractors around some of the communal farming areas there. The question for me is, what is the sector envisaging in terms of really scaling up, developing the agri-business sort of industry and really leveraging on some of the good graduates that may be coming out of these agri-Tvet projects? I mean, I'll just cite a very quick example I saw in Uganda. They have what they call a young farmers cooperative, where most of these young agriculture graduates are sort of cluttered into little cooperatives and assigned land parcels where they actually produce for a government set agricultural quota for local consumption or export. I mean, given a country like us that imports 75% of our own food consumption, I think the sector should perhaps have an idea in terms of how do you scale up agribusiness development in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Limbo. Question to Gunther, please. What is the sector doing in scaling up?
What is the sector doing? Is it on? Yes. What is the sector doing? What was the sector doing? If I go back 7, 8 years with Tvet 1, Tvet 2, what it was, we developed the qualifications level 2 and 3, which was focused on employable farm workers. Then we argued, no, some of them needs to become self-employed. Then we developed a level 4, level 5 qualification, which are farm management qualifications. Those are the ones which are currently implemented. I elaborate a little bit on it in the next presentation. So basically, we have a farm management qualification where level 4 gives a little bit more, shares more information on what agriculture is all about, and the level 5 which is a vocational diploma, is a farm management diploma. So it is taken care of. Unfortunately, we're not rolled out that project extensively. There is something in. Then we come to innovation, micro-credential, short courses. I think we definitely need many of them to supplement at the moment, because to allow people to specialize on certain areas. Yes, we have now sort of a semi-short course in aquaponics, sorry. And we have one which specializes in poultry production. And we have one specializing in organic agriculture. Rissa, you are in charge of it. You must correct me. Yeah. Okay, but you see, I think we must go on to develop quality assured short courses, supplementing farm managers, and we need to promote the system. Just the last one. We have unemployment. I think the quickest fix to unemployment is to combine land, water, and people. We have plenty of it in Namibia. If we combine it, we have more food, we have more people who have a decent living, a purpose in life, and we have more food. And I think that needs to be integrated and assigned. It has also to do with attitudes of trainees. Do not train them. Do train them with the end in mind. You are here so that you grow vegetable on a hectare or 2. Or that you have a dairy goat and make cheese, or whatever it is. That is short courses coming now. Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists. So I wish to thank you all for sharing your insights and expertise. Your contribution really deepened the understanding of how Namibia can strengthen its Tvet system. So let's continue this important discussion beyond this room. So thank you once again, and please let's give our panelists a well-deserved round of applause, and thank you again.
We're available for Christmas bookings also.
Exactly. Photo with my Shirumbus.